Thank you.
So last time we talked about, I think, which number here? Mm, yeah, number 7. This profession intermediate. This one number 9 here. If we done this one, is that right?
Manifestation. I think we stopped at 8, and I think, yeah, 9 was the next one.
Okay. So we talked about the parameter yet? Probably number 8 yet.
Yeah, we did number 8.
Yeah. This perfect intermingling of phenomenons and phenomenons achieves the Buddha patterns in the 10 directions and is called the skillful performance of the law. Yeah, so the union of the nominants and phenomenons achieve the Buddha pattern. Um, so last time we talked about, we understand the definition between the nominants and phenomenons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Difference between them. Uh, so let me see here. Let me call that then. What's the difference between them? You remember the difference between them?
Yeah. So in Buddhism, nomina would be considered the Buddha nature. That would be the ultimate nomenon. So everything that we perceive, whether it's with respect to ourself or respect to other, not self, all of those are phenomena. And what the true nature of them is would be the nomenon, which would be the Buddha nature. So we perceive a tree and we think of it as a tree, but really that's the Buddha nature. Um, and obviously, Buddha nature is a concept, uh, and we don't really understand it unless we have become enlightened to it. Um, but that'd be my understanding. The other understanding I think that could be had of it is that, like, I see this table and I see it in the visual spectrum. So what do I experience of this table? I only experience a facet of the table because the table is also emitting other types of light. It's emitting probably infrared radiation for sure. And I can't see that. So I'm not seeing the whole table. My nose, my smell is not complete. There are certain things I can't smell. So I'm not smelling the whole table. When I'm feeling it, I only have a certain level of resolution to feel the table. There's probably more subtlety to its actual thing. And I can't experience its atomic structure and all of these things that we know about the reality of this table. So what I can relate to is I can only relate to the phenomenal level, which is basically what can my senses pick up. And then what the nomina points at is that there's something that is beyond what we can perceive that is actually kind of behind what I call a table. And I think if you take that to its ultimate, that would be the true nature. That would be the Buddha nature. But if you keep things separate and you say, okay, there's still separate things, and that I think that's how some people use this idea of nomenon. They'd say that, okay, really, there's something here where this table is that's beyond what I can perceive in its totality. I'm just perceiving a facet.
Mhm. So here, then saying the maintenance has been participation, partial perspective based on what can be experienced, include internalized phenomena. So that means we mm, participate in that type of environment, right? And we have that experience, like you say, internalized, like the Buddha nature, right? The phenomenons, right?
Hmm.
And
I
the
don't, this graph doesn't match with what I thought I understood about it. I'm having trouble like this. And let me move my, so I can read the stuff beside it too.
yeah,
Partial perspective based on what can be observed. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then nomenon, partial perspective based on what can be experienced. Oh,
and the experience, one the observation.
Wow. Okay, that's different than I thought. All right, but that would still be like we could experience the Buddha nature.
Mhm. And the phenomena has mean what we observe, what we yeah, that's observation, right?
Yeah,
Observation
versus experienced. Okay.
externalized things. So one is experience within ourselves, right? One is we could absorb externally. Let's see here. Need to see anything more. Let's see here. Metaphysics. Anything more? Cell, other than cell, domain awareness. This is understanding unknown real. There's still confusion. And
That one kind of matches more with my the understanding I expressed at the beginning that there's like there are things that we're perceiving an aspect of what's actually there. And we kind of we like understand it through a filter in some sense, as opposed to being able to just experience the reality of it.
hmm. So this this mental word, this material words. I think last time I understand, but somehow now a little bit confusion. Let's see here. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, Let's see how which term that we can understand. Appearance, which constitute our experience. Hmm. In themselves, which constitute reality.
That matches with what I was thinking at the beginning. That part definitely matches.
But here they say that nominal is about the experience, but that this one is opposites. I don't know why they have different.
Yeah, the first chart you pulled up that seemed a little out of left field from how I understood it.
Opposites. This opposite.
Yeah, because like in this one, you look at the last one you had up, it's saying that the nomina is really kind of unknowable by our general understanding of things, the fourth bullet point. Like in Buddhism, I think that's the only tradition that really talks about the ability to merge with the nomenon, basically the Buddha nature. So since the thing itself would by definition be entirely independent of our experience of it, we are utterly ignorant of the nominal realm. Like that I think is how we live unenlightened. But enlightenment would be we actually merge with the nominal realm. Our consciousness merges with the Buddha nature and is no longer like a distinct, like we don't experience it as a separate consciousness and then go from our perception. It's like the Dharma body is all nomenon, I think. Instead of perceiving them as phenomena, the Dharma body is them as noumena.
How about this one definition here? Nominal is things in themselves which cannot be known by the use of sense. Go beyond.
Yeah.
Okay? Phenomena things as they appear to us, empirical and therefore changeable. So this is things we can see, we can observe. That's called phenomena. For example, let's say I think I like last time we talked about these two terms. We are like the analogy like phenomena is like the thunderstorm, right? We can observe, we see that thunderstorm there, right?
Hmm.
Things that appear to us. But phenomena is that things that cannot be known by the use of sense. So yeah, somehow I'm thinking that the nature of thunderstorm is because of two clouds that pass the negative energy that clash together. That's why they create the thunderstorm. Is that numinous?
I think like nomina, it's kind of an empty box for us. Like it's a box we can't see inside of. Because if we can see it, if we can conceptualize it, then it's phenomena. Like I think the nomina being the things in themselves, you could say like if you look at a flower, if you were a bee and you look at a flower and you have ultraviolet vision, the flower looks like it has ultraviolet rays coming off of it and it looks really bright to the bee. But we look at a flower and we don't see that. So like what is the true nature of the flower? Like we don't get to know what the true nature of the flower is through our senses because we're limited, and the bee doesn't get to know either. The bee just knows the flower relative to its senses, and a dog is going to know, like, smell the flower in a whole different way than we will. So all of us are relating to like a phenomena from the flower, but the true like thing in and of itself, like what is that flower actually in its fullness? Like I think that's beyond us, unless perhaps in enlightenment it seems like that's where we merge with the nomina. And so that's why nobody understands the Buddha, because nobody else other than the Buddhas have merged with the nomina to be able to grasp it at its root. I think instead of like perceiving reflections off of it, like but light bounces off a flower and then we can interpret that light and know the flower that way. I think like being like one with the Buddha nature, like one can know the flower directly, not through the senses, but like the Dharma body is one with all phenomena, like the essence of all phenomena. So then, it is it is the nomina, the Buddha nature. And
Hmm. Yeah, phenomena were things as they appear to us, right? Phenomena was things in themselves, in themselves. I guess space and times and causality are parts of our perceptual framework. Mm, as independent, exist independent of human sense perception, no knowledge possible beyond human grasp. So, in the sense, you can say it's like you say, Buddha nature here, right? Beyond human grasp, right? Beyond it dependent from our sense, but phenomena depend on our sense to see, to witness.
yeah,
Mm.
and I think really for like this Western philosophy here with Kant, nomenon would be it's clearly a theory, right? Because if you can have no knowledge of it,
Yeah.
you don't actually know that there's something behind the curtain. I think, yeah, I mean, it's a fun, like, intellectual exercise for sure.
Mm. Okay. Mm. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. So see that picture with the scribbled lines? So maybe like another way to conceptualize nomina would be in the instant that I look at a tree and I perceive the tree, well, what's really happening?
This
Like I
one.
don't know what's really happening, but I know enough to know that I don't know what's really happening because I know some of the things. Like, okay, light bounced off that tree, it went in, it hit the back of my eye, that activated certain cones and rods. Those things went to the back of my brain. The back of my brain like organized an image and then turned it upside down. So I see that image and then it interacts with my memory. So all I do is I look and I see a tree, but I don't experience any of that other part that goes into it. And all of the roots of like all of the things I perceive it, like there's the roots go so far if we consider like the past, especially. Um, So maybe that's another way to think of phenomena as like our perception doesn't include what it takes for us to perceive.
Yeah. Hmm. How about this? Where transcendental objects, um, hmm. Well, it's I somehow last time I forgot. Last time it's had to clear example of a difference of between these two. Mm. Mm.
It's Plato's Cave is another, that's a story that discusses this. It's like if you imagine there's a cave and there's a guy chained in the cave and all he can do is sit and look at a wall. And then above and behind him there's a pathway. And behind that pathway there's a light source, like a big fire. And occasionally people pass along the pathway and the guy can't turn and look at them and the guy can't hear them, but the fire casts their shadow on the wall in front of him. So all he perceives is the shadow that's cast on the wall, and then he has to decide, what the thing is based on the shadow. And so in that analogy, like the phenomena would be the shadow on the wall that he perceives, and the nomina would be the person walking by on the path behind him. But Plato's assertion was that all of us are like that. Everything we perceive is just an illusion, it's just a shadow. And the Greeks were influenced by Buddha, so that's probably like it probably got into Greek philosophy there in a different form.
Yeah. Um. Okay. So well, so uh, anyway. Hmm. So let's put this way. It's so simple way to understand. So phenomena is like the Buddha nature, right? In a sense, right?
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate nomina. I would agree with that.
And the phenomena is the way that we absorb through our sense, right?
Hmm.
So we'll go back here. So this perfect intermingling of this Buddha nature and how we observe things through our five sense and organs achieve the Buddha pattern into the direction. It's called the skillful performance of the law. So as long as we have that kind of let put this way, the combination, right, or the union of a pure nature and our external observation through our sense, so we can have that kind of skillful performance. That's achieve the Buddha pattern in the sense that in Buddhist simple way, that uh, if we focus our mind, if we see things as the way they are, if we focus our mind without any kind of discrimination or discriminative thought, at that times we achieve that Buddha pattern. Like when we sincere, when we sincere to recite Buddha names, when we sincere to recite the mantra, for example, right? Our speech, action, and mind united together. This is no more false thinking. There's no more emotion fluctuation. That's when we are in once with Buddha pardon intention. Has mean anyone that achieve to that state of mind, that is Buddha pardon. It makes sense to you, right? You follow me?
Yeah, I think it's particularly beautiful, this whole chain of things that because right, how it's an interesting question to see, like, when there's no self, and then how the Buddhists talk about, the Buddha, which is not, it's not an individual self, but it is this sort of, it's this recurrent, you know recurrent role, or you could say, the Buddhas continually appear, and that there's this, the Buddha pattern comes from the mingling of those two together, that when those two actually are no longer experienced as distinct,
Mm.
then the natural consequence is that you have a Buddha. Like, that's pretty cool. That feels kind of like physics. That feels kind of like math.
So it put simple way that when we are in concentration, when we are focused, uh, without any kind of forward thinking, analytical thinking, and that's moment we've achieved the Buddha pattern. It's simple, right? Mm. That's why it's just this, that's why when the moment that we are so sincere to recite Buddha name, to recite the mantra, or the moment that we let go of all the thought, that's we follow Buddha pattern. That makes sense now, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, so let's stop here today then. It's really good discussion, especially I love to talk more about that kind of connection between the past and the present life, between the energy of karma into the consciousness, and of course we talk about numbness and phenomena too. It's interesting. Okay, so we stop here today and see you
Thank you,
next.
Ted. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. All right.